Do you feel a sudden pang of anxiety anytime your partner is late? Or are you quick to suspect that maybe they're cheating on you? Or maybe you avoid getting close to someone because the fear of losing them is just too much to bear? If so, you're really not alone. This fear of abandonment affects many of us. And in this video, I'm going to talk about how understanding the origins of that fear can help you to overcome it and enjoy much more fulfilling and secure relationships now and into the future. Fear of abandonment often stems from childhood experiences, and you may assume that the kind of childhood experiences that would lead to such a fear would be things like the loss of a parent, perhaps through an acrimonious divorce or through death. But did you know there's another kind of experience that can also lead to a fear of abandonment? And that's the experience of being overly protected as a child, held back and prevented from developing your independence and your competence to do things by yourself. Maybe you experienced a lot of illness as a child and your parents became overly protective. Or perhaps your parents struggled with their own anxiety and weren't able to let you go and have the freedom to explore and try things on your own. These kind of experiences can lead you to see yourself as less capable than other people and so become overly reliant on them to do things for you, seeing yourself as needing a lot of help and support. And so the thought of being alone and not having people there to help you and to guide you is pretty terrifying because you lack that inner sense of confidence in yourself. These two types of experiences are not mutually exclusive. It is, of course, possible to experience both overprotection and loss in childhood. Not all abandonment fears stem from childhood experiences. Even if you had positive experiences with your parents and family in childhood, the experience of deception or infidelity or another kind of betrayal in a very close adult relationship with someone you loved and trusted can shatter your sense of other people as dependable and reliable and available to you. Or if you had the experience of being in a close relationship with someone who's very critical or very controlling, that can undermine your sense of confidence in yourself and leave you feeling much more vulnerable and much more in need of the support and guidance of others. I like to think of secure relationships standing on two legs. The first leg is dependability and reliability. It's having confidence that this other person loves you, cares about you, is available to you. A little child who has that kind of confidence in their caregiver isn't the little child who's going to cling on to their caregiver for dear life. Quite the opposite. Because they have that security and confidence in their caregiver, they can actually go and explore and experiment and strike out and build their autonomy and build their independence and their sense of competence. And that's the second leg. The second leg is that of separateness and independence and autonomy. A secure relationship needs both legs in order to stand up. It needs dependability and autonomy. And both dependability and autonomy need to be present and in balance because not enough of one or the other is going to make the relationship much more rocky and much less secure. So in a secure relationship, you can be both intimate and independent. You can rely on the other person and you can rely on yourself. If you want to understand more about what might be going on for you, reflect back on your childhood experiences and your past experiences in important relationships. Were you given the freedom to explore or were you overly protected? Did you feel like you had someone who you could count on and rely on, who truly loved and cared about you? Or did you get a sense that in the end, you're always alone? Do you lack confidence in your abilities to be independent and to take care of yourself? Or do you lack confidence in other people's willingness or ability to be there for you? If you're not sure, then sometimes in therapy, I ask people to bring to mind a recent experience in which their fear of abandonment was very active and to allow themselves to experience the emotions and the body sensations that were active. And as they do, I then invite them to let their mind drift back into the past, into childhood, and see what memories arise. And this can be a very helpful way to get familiar with how your sense of yourself and your sense of other people and relationships have evolved and developed in childhood and throughout your life. In schema therapy, we call this sense of ourselves and sense of other people and relationships our core schemas. They're made up of the stories, the memories, the emotions, the body sensations that comprise our sense of ourselves and our sense of other people. And they act as a framework to guide us as to what we can expect and how we should cope in our relationships. As you start to understand how your past experiences have made up your schemas, your sense of yourself, your sense of relationships, your sense of other people, you can begin to identify, where are the missing pieces? What are the experiences that I've been lacking that I may need to address? I may need to intentionally give myself the opportunity to have new experiences that can help me build a new sense of myself or a new sense of other people. And in the rest of this video, I'm going to give you suggestions as to how you might do just that to address your particular fear of abandonment, based on whether it stems more from your view of other people, your view of yourself, or experiences in more recent relationships. If you recognize that you are someone who hasn't had enough experience of being able to rely on yourself, you can recognize how being overly protected or stifled or held back in some way has stopped you from being able to build a sense of confidence in yourself and in your abilities. And you can understand that whilst that is completely understandable, it probably also vastly underestimates your abilities, and it also probably stops you from being able to develop a real sense of self-identity and who you are standing on your own 2 feet as an adult. So you can begin to give yourself the opportunity to develop self-confidence and develop self-reliance. And that may mean depending a little less on other people, intentionally setting yourself little challenges of things you might avoid doing or things you might ask other people to do for you, so you can build your sense of confidence in yourself and hopefully develop a real sense of pride in yourself and a sense that you can count on yourself. And if you're able to do that, then you're going to put yourself in a much better position in your close relationships. By becoming much more self-reliant, you are building up that leg of independence. And that means you're much less likely to exhaust the people close to you by being overly dependent on them. Now, it's not uncommon to have a fear that by becoming more self-reliant, you may push people away, especially if you see your neediness and your demands for support as a means of keeping people close to you. In fact, the opposite is much more likely to happen because people can relate to you much more as an independent, autonomous adult. The relationship is healthier and it's much less exhausting and much more enjoyable for the other party. So it's highly likely that those relationships are really going to flourish as you build your independence, and that you might actually have a more enjoyable experience of intimacy. Now, another way becoming more self-reliant can really protect you in your future relationships is by giving you the confidence that you can stand on your own, which means you're much less likely to tolerate very hurtful or abusive behavior in a relationship, and much more able to get out of a relationship if it isn't characterized by respect and kindness. If you recognize that you're someone whose fear of abandonment stems much more from not having had the experience of people being available to you, loving you, caring for you, or maybe even actual experiences of abandonment or loss, rather than building up your sense of self-reliance and independence, you may need to build up your sense of other people as potentially reliable and supportive and loving to you. For some of you, that may mean practicing asking for help rather than only relying on yourself. It may mean sharing more of your emotions and experiences with people close to you, so they actually get the opportunity to show you what it's like to be loved and cared for, and to have someone that you can actually rely on and lean on for support at times. Another common way that a lack of confidence in other people can manifest is by being overly suspicious and paranoid, maybe being very quick to accuse your partner of cheating or planning to leave you. Now, of course, this just introduces a huge amount of conflict into your relationships and may actually result in the very abandonment that you fear. If that is the case for you, then you are almost certainly going to benefit from slowing this down and recognizing where your fear of abandonment that stems from historical experiences is driving your emotions and your reactions to your partner rather than anything that your partner is currently doing. By being able to take a step back and recognize that it's your abandonment schema being activated, you can start to soothe yourself, to calm yourself down, to actually pay attention to what's going on in the present moment and respond to your partner. And if those anxieties are still very present and taking over, then you may be able to discuss them with your partner and ask for their support, but in a constructive way that isn't bombarding them with accusations or demands for reassurance. If changing your behaviors in your current relationships seems overwhelming, that doesn't really surprise me. Very often, if you have a strong fear of abandonment, you're going to be attracted to the very people who reinforce that fear. If that's the case, then slow things down. Practice in smaller ways with less intimate relationships and begin to build up your confidence in other people or in yourself or both in a more gradual way. But here's the good news. You may be attracted to the very people who are going to reinforce your abandonment fears, but your fear of abandonment can also lead you to massively underestimate the capacity of other people to be available to you or to support your independence and your autonomy. So it is really important at some point to address these issues in your closest relationships. And that's either going to help you discover that your relationship has much more capacity to support you or to support your independence than you ever imagined, and your relationship is going to flourish. You may also find that you've been attracted to someone or you formed a relationship with someone who is unreliable or who wants to control you and doesn't want you to have independence. And if that's the case, then you may need to reevaluate that relationship or figure out some other ways to meet those needs. And what if your abandonment fears stem from more recent experiences? Your faith in other people has been shattered, but you have had good, positive relationships in the past. Cast your mind back to those old memories of secure relationships, what it felt like to have someone you could rely on and depend on, that was possible for you, that was possible for the people close to you. Tuning into those old memories can help you reconnect with your sense of other people as loving, as trustworthy, as reliable. And you may also want to reach out to actual people who have been or who are sources of support for you, to lean into those other relationships, to share with them what has actually happened to you and to allow people to support you. That can really help you to rebuild your faith in other people. And if your confidence in yourself has been undermined, again, bring back old memories of times when you felt really proud of yourself, times where you felt accomplished, times where you had adventures, where you took risks and you really enjoyed doing those things. And as you do, hopefully you're going to reconnect with your sense of yourself as capable and competent and self-reliant. You can also make a list of all the things that you're anxious, that maybe you're putting off doing because of your fear of not being capable, and just begin to take those challenges on step by step, all the way beginning to stand a little taller, breathe a little deeper, and really reconnect with a sense of pride in yourself and your own abilities. Now, a fear of abandonment can manifest in many ways in relationships, and it can really cause a lot of damage. So to find out more about how your fear of abandonment is affecting your relationships, click right here.